Bro, this is that small town shit I'm talking about. People have nothing better to do but cause problems. She turns to her plus one, whispers in her ear in front of me. Literally, it's not even loud. The other plus one laughs, literally fucking tilts her head back and then says, what's the problem? To me. And in my head, I'm like, this girl truly must be miserable. She must have nothing going for herself to the point where she just wants to go and stir up shit in other people's lives. I have to tell this story. Okay, well, let's just hope it's nice and refreshing. It's a refreshing Monday. It's a brand new week. Who is excited for Monday? Raise your hand if you're excited for Monday, right? I was supposed to wake up at 4:30 this morning. I woke up at 6:30. I felt like a failure because I woke up at 6:30 instead of 4:30 in the fucking morning. And, I think about it and it's really hard. When I think a lot of people really, not just high achievers. I think a lot of people are really hard on themselves. But you also have to think about how far you've come. Anybody that knows me knows I used to be late to everything. I still am a little tardy. I like to pack as much into my schedule because I hate just kind of like sitting around. Even when like my schedule doesn't have stuff in it, I'll sometimes find just things to do or like fill in there that maybe I shouldn't, because when it comes down to it, maybe having gaps in my schedule will allow for me to have that, I guess you could say, flexibility. But I used to wake up late all the time. Like when I say wake up late, I mean like 11. Like I'd sleep in. And this is a lot like during college and high school and stuff like that. But even obviously throughout my adult life, like I'm just a night owl. It's not even that I like sleeping. It's just I'm a night owl. I'll always stay up really late and I'll pay for it in the morning. And I think I've mentioned this on the pod, but something that's always really helped me is Cody Sanchez. She talks about how majority of people's problems would be resolved, or 99% of people's problems would be solved if they would just wake up a couple hours earlier. And I think that's really true because I'm not just trying to wake up at 4:30 to wake up at 4:30. Obviously, there's a purpose. And usually I can just wake up at 4:30 or even 6:30 and go straight to work, right? Like I need to kind of reflect. I would like to go to the gym, kind of get my mind and my body activated. But, I woke up late, I guess you could say, but I also have to give myself some grace. I also, and I'm only bringing this up not to just to talk about myself, obviously, but because I think a lot of people might be able to get value. But I think that, when you're hard on yourself and you think about all the things that you might be going through or things that aren't going right and all the things you want to do and how you feel like you should be further along in life or things should be different, or you saw yourself doing something completely the opposite of whatever you're doing now and you're not. And when you think about these things and you kind of like bottle them up and you just feel like you're drowning, like just drowning in life and whatever the case may be. One thing that's always really helped me, and I started doing it, I want to say even before I was dancing, but maybe even since I was a kid, really, but reflecting on paper. So this could be physical paper or this could be Google Docs, but reflecting on kind of like where you're at, what you're feeling. Because as soon as I start to, I guess you could say, put my self-pity on paper or just kind of how I'm feeling and what's going on, I start to think about, well, I have this in the works and I have this planned and this is coming up. And it's like, your mind just kind of goes like, well, yeah, this sucks and I'm going through this, but I'm so grateful because I've learned this. And I think it just gives you a new perspective because it's easy when you're in your head, like, fuck, like, how am I going to accomplish this? How am I going to do this? How am I going to resolve this? And then when you put it on paper and you actually reflect, it forces you to think about solutions, at least for me. That's just kind of what I've experienced. So if that's not something that you do, maybe you should consider it because it's really easy to get trapped in your mind. Like you are your biggest enemy, I think you could say. And the mind can be a trap and it can lie. And I think there was somebody on TikTok. I don't know how reliable TikTok is, But there's someone somewhere talking about some psychological truths or just some studies that people were discussing about just the mind. And the reality is the mind can play tricks on you. The mind, majority of the time, we're making up scenarios in our head that don't exist and never will. But it's because it's just the thoughts that run through our mind. And that's where I think a lot of reading or just self-improvement, whether that be books, podcasts, um, any type of audio, in-person groups and communities, like literally anything that can help provide you with more knowledge and more insight on life in general, I think is going to be really beneficial to a lot of people. Because if you're just going through life without reflecting, without having anyone to talk to, without having anything to kind of reference, you just are living in your own world. You're living in your own bubble. And I think it's important to keep growing. They say readers are leaders. They say new levels, new devils. So in life, if you're not constantly growing, you're dying. That's what they say. And I definitely agree with that. There's never like a top, right? There's always more. And most people may not realize that because they have small thinking or short-term thinking or just a mindset that's limited because they haven't been exposed to more. And that kind of brings me into my most recent experience, which was out in one of my old, it's not a hometown, but it feels like it. In Washington, I lived in a really small town. I wouldn't say it's crazy small. It's definitely smaller than Sacramento, but it is bigger than like those really country towns. But it's in Washington. It's right next to Portland, Oregon. It's right across the bridge. And I lived there from 3rd grade to 8th grade with my dad. And then my grandma lived not too far down the street. And I grew up there 3rd grade to 8th grade. Most of my childhood years, it's most of what I remember. My best friend since 3rd grade is still there. Still talk to her. Was just with her this past weekend. And during that 3rd grade to 8th grade, I made all these friends. I met all these people. I expected to go to high school out there. I just was very comfortable and I loved my environment from what I remember. And when my dad had lost his job back when I was in 8th grade, he basically told us that we needed to go live in California because he couldn't afford to live just me and him out there because my grandma had already moved back to California with my aunt. She was getting older. So anyways, my dad basically broke the news that we had to go live with family, and I was devastated. I did not want to move. I did not want to leave my friends. I did not want to leave my little crushes, like none of that. So I worked really hard to convince my dad during halfway through my freshman year in California to have us move back to Washington. It was because he was still on unemployment, so he was still getting paid, and he had a certain amount of time until he had to like actually have a job. So I was like, look, let's go out to Washington. And it's not as easy as me just asking, hey, dad, let's move. Can we move back to Washington? No, it was not that easy. I literally wrote my dad a letter every single day of freshman year, trying to convince him on why we could move back to Washington and like the plan behind it. And I was so fucking persistent that he said yes. And I think that also goes to show a lot into like the tenacity. And yes, it's a parent, but I think that if you were to do that with anything in life, you could probably accomplish almost anything. So I digress. But we moved back halfway through freshman year, and the rest of my freshman year was a complete shit show. It just ended up with like a lot of home life issues, bad grades, rebellion, fights, like literally everything you can name it. Sophomore year, met a mentor, had a really great experience, but my dad couldn't find a job, so we ultimately ended up moving back. As I say that, all of these events, everything that happened, I believe happened for a reason, and it prepared me for whatever I'm doing now in my life now and the mindset that I have now. But I would say one of the best decisions, or even one of the best things, it wasn't even my decision, really. I had no control over it. But one of the best things that ever happened is my dad forcing us to move back to California because he couldn't find a job. Probably one of the best things that happened, because if I would have stayed out there, I don't know where I would be. I don't know if I'd be stuck in that small town thinking. I always would like to believe that I've had a big vision and I've always been very ambitious, but I don't really know if that's the case. You know, like when you're younger, you're so caught up in like being youthful and boys, and you're not really thinking about like all the greater things in life. I don't know. But I'd like to believe that I was lucky enough to go somewhere else that made me think bigger. A lot of people would say that Sacramento is kind of the same. Like it's not a small town, but a lot of people are doing the same things, or maybe they're not progressing, or everybody knows everybody and people have a bunch of kids and blah, blah, blah. I think Sacramento is a lot more ambitious than that. I think California is a lot more ambitious, but I could be wrong. Maybe it just depends on the person and the circumstance. But I have noticed a pretty wide pattern with the people from where I used to live to where I am now. And it's very different. So in Washington, I just went back to that 10-year reunion. So if you guys were on the last podcast episode, I talked about how I had the opportunity to go to Miami for my friend's 30th or to Washington for my 10-year reunion. And I chose the 10-year reunion because I knew I wanted to go to it since the beginning of this year. And I had made a goal to do it. So I stuck to that goal and I went, and I'm super grateful that I did. I didn't graduate from there, but everyone was super welcoming. A ton of people remembered me. I went with my best friend. I went with another girl that I've known since 6th grade. It was great seeing her. It feels like she hasn't changed at all, just her silly self. Very funny, very goofy, fucking crazy, honestly. Like, people think I'm crazy. People think I'm a bad influence. She takes it up to another level, but in like a very harmless way. I think that her intentions are pure for the most part. She's just who she is, right? So it was very wholesome, and I'm super grateful that I got to go and see people. And it's been a really long time. I've known certain people since I was just a kid, you know, and a lot of them now have kids of their own, or they're married. You know, we all go to reunions. People have gained weight. That's not a surprise. Also, a lot of people, I wouldn't say are doing the same thing, but maybe just have the same habits and mindset. I have to tell this story, and I don't know how Stephanie's going to feel about me telling it, but I just think it's funny. And I really don't give a fuck if the girl who was a part of it sees this, because I have no loyalty to her. But anyways, so like I said, this is a very small, like, town thinking type of community. People, not everyone, have nothing better to do, it feels like. So what do? They cause drama, or they start shit, or they spread rumors. And that's what I dealt with a lot during freshman year specifically. Now, I probably dealt with it in middle school as well, maybe even in elementary school, I guess. Probably not really. But that's what it felt like, was just all throughout freshman year, was just drama, drama, drama. And it didn't change once I left. Stephanie would tell me all the time about other shit that would happen in school. Anyways, Stephanie still catches me up on like certain people that she hangs out with and, you know, drama and whatever. So there's this girl that she's known for a really long time. I've also known her, and they were friends. And I went out for Stephanie's birthday, like April, and she invited this girl to come to her birthday that she's known forever. And the girl basically accuses her of being a Trump supporter and says, "I'm Latina. I can't be around you. You're a Trump supporter. I don't feel comfortable going to your birthday and supporting you." So she basically cuts her off and doesn't even have a discussion. Stephanie responds, and Stephanie's never been very political. I don't think she's ever posted about her beliefs, so I don't know where this girl pulled it out of her ass. And even if Stephanie was a Trump supporter, who gives a fuck? Like, I mean, obviously everyone has their own political views. I understand. I get that. And I know it's a very controversial topic, which is why I don't get into like politics or religion. But I also think they've known each other for a really long time. But at the end of the day, this girl feels the way that she feels. She's not wrong for feeling that way. So therefore, the relationship's done, right? Whatever. But ultimately, it was just that. It wasn't like, oh, I have a lot of beef with you. Like, I don't fuck with you at all. It's hands on sight, whatever. It wasn't like that. It was just like a woman saying, hey, like, I'm good off of you. Okay, cool. So me and Stephanie I'm in Washington, and the girl that I've known since 6th grade, she wants to go and get drinks, right? And she wants to go and meet up. And she was like, hey, let's do me, you, Stephanie, this girl, and then this other girl. And I'm like, one of the girls is the Latina girl that said she doesn't mess with Stephanie anymore. And I told Stephanie, I was like, hey, we should go get drinks with them. And she was like, she doesn't mess with me. I'm like, bro, that was like 6 months ago. I'm sure it's fine. Like, do you think she's really going to have she's going to have a cold shoulder? Come on, bro. So long story short, then the other girl that our other friend had invited, Stephanie also told me she doesn't like her either. So this other girl doesn't like Stephanie either, because I guess of something that Stephanie's boyfriend might have said at a party that this girl wasn't even at. I guess it just went through the grapevine, which again, I don't understand. But this other girl that we've also known since we were kids has a problem with her. So all of us have known each other since we were kids. But me, Stephanie, and the crazy one, we'll just call her Crazy, are supposed to hang out. We're all so cool. And then Crazy is still cool with Latina and then the +1 of Latina. Okay. So these three are all still cool. I'm thinking I'm still cool with everybody. I don't talk to the other two, but I've known them forever and I have no problem. So Crazy invites these other girls, and the other girls the day of basically say, hey, we're running late. Like, we're not going to make it to drinks and whatever. So they're just going to meet us at the reunion. Okay, cool. No problem. Me and Stephanie never had discussions with these girls. It was all based on what Crazy said. Okay. So me, Crazy, and Stephanie all meet up at the bar. This is before the reunion. We catch up. We have like some great conversations, and then we head to the reunion. And Stephanie, I know how she's feeling. She wants to keep her distance from these girls, and rightfully so. If they don't mess with her, why would she want to go up and be fake friendly or just friendly in general if she feels like she's not welcome? Fine. But me, I'm like, I haven't seen these girls in forever. I don't think there's a problem. So I'm over here excited to see them and say hi. So I walk in, I see them, and then I go up to them. And the first one I go up to is the Latina girl. And the +1 is like talking to someone else. So I'm like, oh my God, hey, like, how are you? And then she just literally, bro, when I tell you the cold shoulder that I got was insane. Like, mind you, again, like, I'm in a great mood. Like, I'm excited to see everyone. I don't think there's any issue. I thought Stephanie was overreacting, honestly, over exaggerating. So I'm like, oh my God, hi, how are you? Literally looks me up and down and says, hi. And I'm like, whoa. I literally start laughing because I'm so caught off guard. I'm like, whoa, wait. I'm like, wait, do you remember me? And she's like, Rachel, right? And I'm like, yeah, is there a problem? And she was like, yeah, you're friends with Stephanie and I don't mess with Stephanie. And I'm like, okay, what does that have to do with me? She's like, well, she's a Trump supporter. I'm like, I don't talk to her about her political views. She said, you're her best friend and you don't talk to her about her political views. And I'm like, no, we don't have these conversations. And then she starts laughing. She goes, ah. And then literally in front of me, bro, when I tell you this is the most high school petty bullshit I've ever seen in my fucking life. She turns to her +1, whispers in her ear in front of me. Literally, it's not even loud. Says some probably like, oh my God, she says she doesn't know that Stephanie's a Trump supporter. Probably something like that. The other +1 laughs, literally fucking tilts her head back and then says, what's the problem to me? And I'm like, whoa. I'm like, I thought that if I came over here that I didn't know there was an issue here. I thought it would be all love, respect. Like, the fuck is the issue? And she's like, there's no issue. And I'm like, no, clearly there is, because I thought you guys would be a little bit more welcoming, but I guess not. And then she was like, oh no, that's just, I'm going to call her Latina. No, that's just Latina. Like, that's what she said. Like, oh, that's just Latina. I'm like, oh, well, hi, how are you? Like, I just kind of shift the conversation, but at the same time, it's so fucking awkward. It's so tense. It's like we give this, like, just me and the +1. We give like this little baby ass hug. And I'm like, and then Crazy girl comes over as we literally hug. And she tries to like lighten up the mood because she can tell something's off. And I'm like, yeah, I'm going to head over this way, but it was great to see you both. And then when I say both, I look at the Latina because I'm like, bitch, I really don't care, but you're weird. Like, you're literally weird. You're petty. If you really have that problem with my friend, that's your guys' problem. But if you want to go and you want to shift the blame on someone else just because they associate with that person, well, then you must not like a lot of people at that reunion, because a lot of people are still cool with Stephanie. Like, make that make sense. So anyway, so I'm like past it at the end of the day. I'm like, I'm not going to it is what it is, right? Like, she was very just like, cold shoulder. I'm better than you, you know? So I'm like, all right, next. So I go and I start talking to people and I just start walking around and saying hi and everything. And I just go about my business. I don't mention it to Stephanie. I don't really see the need to mention it to Stephanie, especially when we're at a reunion with people we haven't seen in 10 plus years. I'm like, I'm going to have a good time. I'm going to say hi to everyone. I'm going to have meaningful conversations. This whole conversation, this whole bullshit with Latina can wait. So, we go about the night. I can still, like, those two girls are all clicked up, which I'm also like, bitch, you guys hang out all the time. Like, why are you, maybe I'm being judgy here, but it's like, why are you clicked up? You haven't seen these people in forever. It's like, you guys are trying to like rely on each other for what? There's really no just go mingle. Anyways, again, I digress. So the night finishes, whatever. And then Stephanie calls me the next day. And again, I haven't told Stephanie anything, right? I haven't even mentioned this to her. I don't even think Crazy mentioned the potential like interaction that she walked in on to Stephanie. And again, it wasn't like a big deal, right? Like nobody else was really around. So Stephanie calls me and she's like, hey, after you left last night, that girl, Latina, she called me and I could tell she was drunk, but she basically kept saying like, oh my God, like I miss you. I'm just so upset because, you know, I'm Latina. And Stephanie was telling me kind of like her response, but basically it goes into this. This is what the girl ends up saying. She says, and your friend, like she came over with an attitude. She basically made an entire scene. Like she literally was saying the shit word for word. This is what Stephanie was telling me. And I'm just like, bro, that is diabolical because number one, I came over with love, with respect, with no type of like hate in my heart. No even worry about whatever the issue is with Stephanie. Nothing at all. Number two, if I made a scene, you would fucking know. Like there's no way that people are not going to think that something just happened. Like they're going to hear my voice. They're going to see something pop off. Like if I have a fucking scene, it's going to be, everyone's going to know. We're going to be in a circle. Okay. Like it's going to be big. So that's all bullshit, but it's fucking funny because it's literally like, bro, this is that small town shit I'm talking about. People have nothing better to do but cause problems. And in my head, I'm like, this girl truly must be miserable. She must have nothing going for herself to the point where she just wants to go and stir up shit in other people's lives. Now, as I reflected on it, because we remember controversy, right? Like we remember what happens and, you know, the altercations more than just like all the great times. So I was reflecting on it before I even had this conversation with Stephanie. And I was like, you know, that was really what I would like to believe is a little bit shitty of her. It did rub me the wrong way. And I don't agree with how she handled it. However, I just have been telling myself I want to lead with love. Like I want to try to be compassionate for people and somehow just kind of understand it's not personal. I think it's more of a her thing than a me thing. So therefore, I've already moved past it, right? And so when Stephanie brought it up, I couldn't help but just laugh. Like it's literally funny. You'll never catch me bring it up to her because I really don't care. And I even told Stephanie, I was like, honestly, she called you, she reached out to you, even though that whole thing about the scene and me having an attitude or coming up to her with an attitude is bullshit, which Stephanie already knows. But I still told her, I was like, Stephanie, maybe you should actually go and sit down at lunch, have a conversation with her, like when she's sober, and just see if you guys can work it out and actually have like a cordial adult conversation. Because I want Stephanie, that girl's been in her life for a really long time. And I know they were close back before this whole thing happened. So I'm like, maybe they can get back to that point. But it kind of goes into, and me and Stephanie had this conversation because she was kind of telling me a little bit about their relationship just in general before this whole thing went down. And it reminds me of the relationships that I've had with certain women in my life where even though we were close, certain things would happen where even if we move past and we have that adult sober conversation, things still continue to happen and then happen again and then happen again. And at some point it's like, okay, clearly this is a pattern. This is a habit of yours. And if you aren't able to adjust it and correct it, then I probably shouldn't have you in my life, or I shouldn't keep you around, or I should at least distance myself. So that's kind of how Stephanie was talking about it. Like she said, even if they ended the conversation at that, even though it was kind of like a drunk conversation, that Stephanie still feels good about it. And if they weren't to talk after that, like she would feel like she walked away with some type of closure. So I still think that that's a win. And I don't say this to try to air out someone else's business and how dumb she looked, but I do say it because of the simple fact that people that come from towns or even places where they never leave, or they just haven't really been exposed to much more, I just think that it truly is not, it's not really their fault. You know what I mean? Like they just don't know what they don't know at the end of the day. And they don't seem that like they want to get better, or maybe they just didn't have someone come into their life to show them better. And I think that's kind of where mentors come in. That's where trips come in. That's where new connections and people come in. So if you're blessed enough to be surrounded by a mentor that you look up to, that you respect, or if you're lucky enough to go to maybe a bigger city that's one town over or a few hours away and just kind of be exposed to more, I think that people might shift their mindset quite a bit, or even just pick up a fucking book, honestly. Especially a self-improvement book, not just any book. But I think about back in high school, when I moved back to Sacramento, me and my friends would take trips to the Bay Area, like a day trip. And I think, maybe it was during like a half day at school, or maybe we just skipped school. But we would go on these day trips, and even being in a bigger city, even an hour and a half away in San Francisco, seeing the big buildings and the different people and the fast pace and just more, you think about what else is out there for me? Like, what else can I accomplish? And things are much larger than just my hometown or where I live or my neighborhood. There's so many opportunities out there. And I see that a lot with people that maybe end up in situations where they get locked up, or they fall into addiction, or they get involved in the wrong relationship. It really just comes down to not knowing better, or just maybe not loving yourself enough, or not working on your own growth. So it really just is about exposing yourself to more. There's nothing else I can really tell someone. Find a mentor, pick up a book, expose yourself to other environments, and try to soak it all in, because that's the only way that someone's going to grow. That's the only way that someone's going to become, I guess you could say, unrecognizable in a sense. And if you're not constantly doing that, if you're not constantly trying to get better, then what is the point, right? So I'm glad that we had this conversation, because I think that this was actually really insightful. Because there's a lot that the world has to offer. And if you're not waking up every single day and trying to kind of pursue whatever that goal and that dream and that vision that you have for yourself is, you're going to start to feel, I don't want to use such a dramatic word like hopeless, but you might start to feel that doubt or that sadness, or just question everything, right? Like, what am I doing? Who do I want to be? Where am I at? Is this really what life is about? Like, I don't want anyone to ever have those feelings. I've had those feelings, and they come in waves. They come in, they pass. But as long as you're waking up each day and kind of putting your best foot forward, working towards something, there's a lot more to be excited about. So it brings me into this book that I'm currently reading. Last time we were talking about Millionaire on Main Street. Now I'm almost finished with The Way of the Superior Man. Now, a lot of people have heard about this book. I wouldn't say it's controversial. And it does say The Way of the Superior Man. So I would say it's geared more towards people with masculine energy. I'm not saying that that's why I'm reading it, but I actually thought I was going to read it because I was going to get more insight on men. Like, like Think Like a Man, like that movie. I thought that that's kind of what it was going to be. But it's funny because I open it and I start reading it. I really didn't know what the fuck I was getting myself into. Have you ever watched a movie with a parent and then there's like a sex scene and you're just like, what the fuck? This is so awkward. That's kind of how I felt with this. I start reading, I'm like, what the fuck? What am I reading right now? Because a lot of it is very sexual. It's about a lot of sexual energy, about feminine energy, masculine energy, but ultimately, like, literally, they talk about orgasms and erections and a lot of different sexual things. So if that's your forte, this is the book for you. However, it's not all about that, and it has some great nuggets. It really, really does. And I think that a lot of people should read this because it's an easy read. It's really not that difficult of a read. And it teaches you and opens your eyes to a lot of different things. Now, they kind of go into why they created the title, The Way of the Superior Man. It's not more that it's geared towards like women or men. It's more geared towards masculine energy and really channeling that masculine energy. You could apply it to anyone or anything. So there's a lot of, like I said, great chapters in it, great nuggets. But I think one of my favorites that I've been telling a lot of people about when I have conversations, because one of the first things I'll ask someone when I'm having a deep conversation with them and they kind of like give me some insight on their life is I'll be like, oh, have you read this book? Have you read that book? So right now it's a lot of, have you read The Way of the Superior Man? And I'm like, I'm going to give it to you after, because I almost always give away my books after I read them. So one of my favorite ones, and I've really touched on this one a lot, just this topic, because I think, and you guys might understand this in the future. You may not understand why I say it now, but you'll understand later. A lot of people's problems arise out of a few different things, but I've noticed that, and a lot of it can go back all the way to their childhood, all the way to this unresolved trauma. I am not saying that is not the case in this, but a lot of the times I see people falling into certain legal problems, criminal problems, just financial problems because of a significant other, because of a wrong partner. And I think I even said on the last pod, 56% of marriages end in divorce. That's more than half of the percentage, or that's more than half of people that get married. They're going to get divorced. So picking your partner is so important. And it's like people they think they have all their shit together, but it's like choosing a partner. You think you know it all. You think you've got a great read on people. You think you know what you're doing. But at the end of the day, sometimes choosing a partner, well, and maybe it's not even fully you, right? Maybe you're making a decision, yes, but people are people. People are not perfect. They are constantly failing, constantly making mistakes, constantly making choices. And when you have a partner like that, all of their choices can affect you. They are a reflection on you. And again, people change. People fall into all types of different things. And therefore, that's where betrayal happens, or just wrong decisions, infidelity, like whatever it may be, whatever you value. So anyways, I think that a lot of people, they make these sacrifices and these compromises and these big ass decisions based on people that they're not even married to yet, that they're not even really truly with yet. And I've been guilty of it. Sometimes I'll fantasize and I'll be talking to someone that I really like, which hasn't been for a really long time. But if I was, I'm the type where I do feel like I'm kind of like a lover girl at heart. Like I am willing to go hard for the people that I care about. And therefore, I'm always thinking like, damn, what if I just did this and gave up this instead? Like, what if I just focused on this relationship and this person and gave up this or moved here for this? Like, that's fucking crazy. Like, considering moving for someone, considering giving up some of your goals and dreams for another fucking human that you don't even know is going to wake up one day and say, I don't love you anymore. That is risky. They talk about gambling, they talk about betting, but that is like one of the biggest risks. Anyways, so The Way of the Superior Man, chapter 7, talks about the title, Your Purpose Must Come Before Your Relationship. So all throughout the first section of the book, they talk about a man's purpose. So when I say man, again, it could be anybody, but it's more so geared towards like masculine energy and someone that has that masculine energy. And I think they talk about the statistic, I could be wrong, but about 80% of men have masculine energy. So a lot of this is going to be geared towards men. A lot of women have feminine energy. But anyways, so they talk about your purpose and figuring out whatever that is. Now, that doesn't have to be any one thing. That doesn't just have to be your career. And that could change over time. But whatever that purpose is, whatever that kind of like North Star is for you in that moment is your purpose. And that's what you should be going towards. And it says your purpose must come before your relationship. So it says, every man knows that his highest purpose in life cannot be reduced to any particular relationship. If a man prioritizes his relationship over his highest purpose, he weakens himself. He weakens himself, disserves the universe, and cheats his woman of an authentic man who can offer her full, undivided presence. So it basically all goes into saying, admit to yourself that if you had to choose one or the other, the perfect intimate relationship or achieving your highest purpose in life, you would choose to succeed at your highest purpose. Just as self-knowledge often relieves much pressure a man feels to prioritize his relationship, when in fact it is not his highest priority. Your mission is your priority. Unless you know your mission and have aligned your life to it, your core will feel empty. Your presence in the world will be weakened, as will your presence with your intimate partner. The next time you notice yourself giving in to your woman, postponing your mission and denying your true purpose in order to spend time with her, stop. Tell your woman that you love her, but you cannot deny your heart's purpose. Tell her that you will spend 30 minutes or some specific time with her in absolute attention and total presence, but then you must return to carry on your mission. Your woman will be more fulfilled with 30 minutes a day of undivided attention and ravishing love than she will be with a few hours of your weak and divided presence when your heart really isn't into it. Time you spend with your woman should be time you really want to be with her more than anything else. If you'd rather be doing something else, she'll feel it. Both of you will be dissatisfied. So I agree with that. And when I was with my last ex, which was about 5 years ago is when we broke up, but we were together for almost 2 years. And at dinner, he would notice it all the time and he would always bring it up. I would always be dealing with some shit, either like with the business or just with work or anything, mostly work. But he would always be like waiting for me to finish a message or an email or a text. And I just look back on it and I'm like, my attention was so divided. And I was always thinking about things. Even when people call me now and I'm at my desk and I answer, which I try my best not to, because I know that my attention is not 100% on work or on that person. It's divided. So usually, you know what? I have a routine-oriented schedule. So from usually 4 to 5, I'll turn my computer off around 4-ish. I'll go upstairs, feed and walk my dog. And on my walks, I'll give callbacks to friends, family. I'll call my loved ones and I'll spend that hour on the phone with them. And even then, I'm still finding myself responding to little messages that just came in or trying to accommodate to certain people and things like that. So a lot of the times my attention is divided. My dad will tell you on the phone all the time, I'm hesitating. I'm like, what? Or with my ex, still to this day, if he knows I'm not paying attention when we're on the phone and we're just having a conversation, he's like, hello? Like he knows, right? And I can tell he gets frustrated sometimes. So even me as a woman, right? Like I'll have my attention divided and I won't be able to pay attention unless I'm 100% focused on that person. And it can be really, really tough. And it's something that you have to practice and you really have to hone in on. But it just goes into whatever your purpose is. Whatever your purpose is, whatever the thing that you're working towards is, all your energy, when it's on that, it should be on that. When it's on your intimate partner, it should be on your intimate partner. When it's on family, it should be on family. When it's on your kids, it should be on your kids. Like, you know, but it's not that easy. It's literally something you have to work towards. Everything is work. Anything worth having and that you value is going to be work. It's going to be something that you have to really pursue. So, I had something else I was going to say about that. I'm distracted right now. I'm distracted. I just lost my train of thought. I was thinking about something else. I was thinking about how somebody wants to go see a property tomorrow and I need to call the realtor and have a fucking conversation and figure out the Supra. Like literally that's what I've just was thinking about. And now I lost my train of thought. See how easy that is, you guys? Like it's fucked. Yeah, man, it's difficult out here. Sometimes I'll be having a conversation and I'll just be in fucking la la land, dude. Like it's just so many things running through my head. But I think I'm going to reread Atomic Habits. I was thinking about that. I've been waking up late too much. Like literally 6:30. Yeah, okay. But seriously, like I need to get my shit together. See, I'm falling back. At this point, I'm just ranting, bro. Like, no, literally. Well, my mom called me between like this time and 5 because she knows that I only like to I can only talk, or I can talk other times, but I prefer to stick to that. But even then, like even your schedule is not going to be perfect. If you think your schedule is going to be fucking perfect and you're going to follow everything to the T, you're going to drive yourself crazy. You're going to beat yourself up. That's all I fucking do. It's just like, why didn't I wake up? Why didn't I just get the fuck up? My alarm went off. I felt fine, but I said, oh, I can just run later. So now I've got to run because I woke up at 6:30 instead of 4:30. So it's just like what you don't do now, you're going to pay for later. And then even if you don't do that, you're going to pay for it long term. So I'm not perfect. I just made a mistake this morning. I'm making mistakes right now, right? Like I'm literally making mistakes almost every fucking day. So if you got some value out of this, please make sure you like, comment, subscribe. Leave any questions of what you want to see on future episodes, and I will see you on the next one. Bye, guys.